Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, Musa Gaming here, and today I'll be doing another tier list for Rise of Kingdoms, specifically ranking every single legendary commanders in Rise of Kingdoms based on their current power level. Now, this is going to be different from my old video because that old video is going to be about old tier lists that I actually did, was based on the investment tier list. So if they are strong now, and they are actually not looking so good in the future, then that tier list would actually have those commanders in the lower tier. But then again, right now, this is going to be your pure strength right now. How strong is this commander for whatever situation they're in? Most of this tier list, including S, A, B, C, D, F, those are all going to be based on purely field strength. And then those that are going to be used for rally and garrison will be actually listed over here based on the order of which that they're listed in will represent their power level. And then before season of conquest tier list would actually be the same way, where you will output the best, strongest before season of conquest commander in the very first spot of this row right here, and then I'll actually go down the list of, okay, well, let's say Alexander the Great is number one in before season of conquest, and then the second best is like Yi Song and so forth. I'll actually list it down in that order. So, and for those who are wondering what S plus, A, B, C, D, F means, I'll go over each and every one of them. So S means that this is the single strongest commander for your field tribe on the field at this very moment based on their pure strength that they represent today as of March of 2025. Now, S means that you can actually use with the best pairing to form the strongest pairing in the game right now, or anywhere near that. So, like, very, very strong. One or two commander max up at S plus and S combined together. And then top tier pairings just means that if you're building out the second march, those are the best pairings for your second march for that troop type. And then from B onward is basically if you're building a third type, a third troop type, a third march for that troop type, or if you're building a second march for the troop type, but it's not really the strongest at the very moment. It's not really comparable to the first strongest march for the troop type, then that will be actually put in the B. Then C, D, C is basically usable but barely. D is trash. F is beyond trash. Nuclear waste. It is Lubu. So we already put Lubu down there. It's pretty good start for that tier right now. All right, well, I ate up a lot of the video's time already. Let's just get right to it. At the very top, best of each troop type. Now, I think this is pretty easy for us to actually do. Arthur, Philip for leadership, Arthur for cavalry, and then now this is where it gets a little bit tough. For infantry, there's a lot of great commanders. But I think Liu Che probably is the best of the best infantry commander. If I had to choose single commander in the game at the moment, and I think for archer is probably Zhuge Liang. Now, in the order of which they should be listed based on the field's power in Rise of Kingdoms, I think Philip, I'll just put it at last, not because Philip is bad, but I think it's because Philip really depends on which pairing that you're using Philip with. Whether you're using him with Arthur, whether you're using it with Liu Che. I think he's best used with Liu Che, in my opinion. But then again, that's basically where I'll put Philip. Now, Arthur is the latest commander. And I'm not putting him there just because he's the latest commander, but because his power level as a skill damage commander, which is the most commonly used form of Arthur at this very moment, is off the chart. You win in duel, you win in field. It's just absurd how strong he is, in my opinion. And if you disagree, check your whole Arthur pairing again. If you disagree, you're probably using Arthur and Philip. But if you're using him as a skill damage commander right now, in all honesty, the performance that he has is really unmatched, and that's just it. I can't really say anything else about this. So yeah, I think Arthur is probably the best commander in the game at this very moment for the S plus tier. Now, in terms of Liu Che and Zhuge Liang, I think I have to put Liu Che before Zhuge Liang because of how many different things that he can do based on. So he has more versatility at the end of the day. He can be used with almost any other commander in the game, and they can just be fine just because of how strong Liu Che is and what his kit does. Whereas Zhuge Liang actually can only be paired with Herman Prime, in my opinion. Yeah, I think that's probably where I'll put each and every one of those guys at. Now, for I'm actually not going to put siege commanders in the S plus just because I think I lack the expertise in knowing enough about siege commanders, although I have great interest in learning about each and every one of them. But I think my personal opinion is that they are probably good to be put at the S tier for Gaza and Gonzalez. And where's the other? Where's the? Do we not have it? We might not have the latest siege commanders here, which is all fine. But I think, yeah, if they're not here, the one that generates rage and everything, they're not here. I think these are probably the best best engineering commander pairings. But let's just go ahead and move on. So S tier. So what can we use Arthur with? And I just said it before. It is Huo. But I'll put him probably at the very last slot of S. The reason for that is because I think a lot of his kit doesn't really allow him to be very versatile. I think him having lower rage requirement makes him really amazing on the field. But then again, he can't really do anything beyond field. I think not as bad as Arthur, to be really honest with you. But I compared to the other ones that are gonna be ranked here in S tier, I don't know. Well, I don't know if Ho is can actually be on the very very top or middle place for the S tier. But let's just go ahead and move on. All right. So what can be used with Liu Che the best? Now I will put Alex in there, but just because that's probably the one of the best used commander pairings. But I'll actually put Alex here because he is a Season of Conquest before Season of Conquest only. And with that said, Liu Che's best pairing probably comes down to William Wallace. So I know that people either use William Wallace or Liu Che. I think William Wallace might be the better pairing, based on some things that I actually seen from my friends who actually run those. I currently run Alex Liu Che just because I didn't want to invest in William Wallace, given that I've been investing too much on cavalry. But I think still technical best pairing is William Wallace Liu Che pairing for infantry. Now I'll put this guy above Huo, and I'll just be done with it. Yeah, probably William Wallace is much better than Huo in terms of his power level. He's a smite commander, so and whatever he does is really really cool. I think. Herman Prime. I think Herman Prime deserves the better spot than Huo. Again, I think Huo. When we're talking about the best pairing, the 6 commander for with 2 for each troop type, I think he does deserve the last spot here. But Huo Arthur pairing is absolutely the strongest pairing I think in Rise of Kingdoms field at the moment. And it also helps that they're cavalry commanders. They have the march speed bonus that they actually get for just being cavalry. So it is what it is. I think that's probably the best pairing that we have so far. Now, I think William Wallace Yucha is probably the second best field march that you can have in Rise of Kingdoms at the moment, and then the third best march is probably Zhuge Liang Herman, although I think it is debatable that you can squeeze in Ragnar Prime and Scipio Prime before that, but I think given that this is the best pairing for Archer, it's probably better for me to actually leave that as is. So that's S tier and S plus tier fixed. I'm not going to touch that. That's probably the best pairing that we can see on the game. Let's just go ahead and move on. Now, A tier, I think, is pretty self-explanatory for a lot of different marches. So let's see. So Joan of Arc Prime probably deserves an A tier. And let's see, where's Nevsky? Where's Alexander Nevsky? Alexander Nevsky, where's Nevsky at? Nevsky, well, yeah. Nevsky is probably worse than Joan of Arc Prime. Just because, for many reasons, but I think the main reason in field, Joan of Arc Prime is a primary reason why Poe and Nevsky were performing really well, whatever pairing that you're using before Arthur came out. So I think Joan of Arc Prime for cavalry was probably really what's boosting the cavalry field performance before Arthur came out. But that's just my opinion. You can disagree with me, but I think that's true. All right, so let's look at archers now. I think Shazar deserves a better spot. I don't know if she will be better than Joan of Arc Prime though. Because imagine that Arthur becomes a Delta combo commander. Wouldn't Joan of Arc Prime's significance still be greater than Shazar? Yeah, I think for Shazar, this is probably better. Now, I'll put Asher Venipal in here somewhere, but unfortunately, he's actually one of the top meta and rally garrison commander, and I can't generate two different commanders here, so I'll just put him down there. So Archer will only, so consider Asher Venipal somewhere here in the top pairings for field. Then Ragnar Prime definitely is going to be on the top of the area right there. Now, Guan Yu is an interesting one. In terms of pure power level, in terms of investment tier, I think I'll give him a B. And I think that's what I gave him from the investment tier list. But in terms of current power level, now, he's the only commander in the game that can do AoE silence that is legendary in the game right now. And the power of silence is unreal in this game, in my opinion. So, I love Nevsky, but I think in terms of power level, Guan Yu is stronger than Nevsky because of the fact that it silences you for 4 seconds. Like, that is it. You're basically donezo. So, like, I can't. Right now, at this very moment, like, I can't put Nevsky above Guan just because of how strong his silence is. And this is a power level tier list, not necessarily an investment tier list. Now, would I put him above Shazar in terms of power level? In all honesty, probably. Would I put him above Joan of Arc Prime? This is a very difficult question now. In terms of current power level, he might be able to make it above Jonabark Prime. But the moment that Ho gets freed up because Cavalry gets another combo commander, I think Jonabark Prime might be able to return and take the spot of Guan here in terms of power level. But I think Guan does have stronger power level than Jonabark Prime right now. Oh, that was very that was very tough. That was a very tough decision. Choi Young probably ends up in the rally garrison. I'll go ahead and organize those later. So what am I missing here? So we have infantry pairing. I don't know if I should put Scipio Prime there. I think Scipio Prime is probably at the very top list of B. A is a little bit of a stretch for him, I think. Because if you're using Guan, Alex, would you use Scipio over Guan or Ragnar Prime in terms of the impact that they have on the field? I don't think so. You can't let go of that AoE silence. This is the only way that you can silence people on the field. And do you want Skippy Prime over that? Probably not. Is Skippy Prime better than Ragnar Prime? Definitely not. So yeah, I'll put him in the very best spot for B tier. Wow, that is tough. So Subutai, I'll put him in the rally garrison. I'll put him in the very top. He just got released. He's broken, as everyone has seen in the game. And the fact that you can use him with Attila made Attila basically come back on his own. So I think Attila, though, like, although Attila Subutai is the best combo right now that you can use in Rise of Kingdoms for meta rally, I think Attila does deserve the last spot on here in terms of just the commander's power level. Because yeah, the only thing that he's doing is just basically buffing him. And if there was a better commander, better option for that, I think everyone else would have used that. But then again, currently there isn't. So that's just basically what the situation is. Scipio A probably deserves a good spot here. Better than Attila. Choi Young, that's a debatable power level question. But I think until Choi Young gets his best pairing for healing, I think Scipio A is little bit better. Don't hate me. Little bit better than that. Eleanor. Now I would put Eleanor. Is Choi Young better than Eleanor? This is probably the most controversial spot. I think they're about the same, to be really honest with you. And Choi Young did get released later than Eleanor, I think. But yeah, anti-swarm is really important for Garrison, so I'll just put him in there. Hera will be very, very strong. Like, basically everyone's gonna use Hera. So any Garrison needs Hera. And I'll just put him way above everyone else. Like, I think right now everyone's using Hera behind whatever Garrison lead that you're using. So that just means purely on its own. And the reason why Hera's so good is because Hera, for one, does a lot of shield, does a lot of damage. Oh, 1200 is not a lot, but then again, if you look at his kit, he actually does have active skill. Again, passive skill that basically triggers another active skill amount of damage. So his active skill damage is actually really, really good. It's not 1200, it's actually like 1200 plus 1200 or something like that. And then he also does another shielding factor, which was just crazy and insane when I did the math for his damage factors. So I think Hera deserves the very top spot for Garrison. I would even put him I would just put him right next to Subutai right there, because he is the god of Garrison right now, in my opinion. Now I'll put Gorgo right next to him, just because those two, in my opinion, is the best Garrison in Rise of Kingdoms right now. Not in this order, but Gorgo Hera is probably the best Garrison in the Rise of Kingdoms right now. So I'll just put them right there. Now, Justinian probably deserves a spot below Attila. Not because Justinian is a worse commander than Attila, but just because of the fact that Justinian's pairing is basically Nevsky, and with Subutai in the game now, I don't think anyone's going to use Justinian and Nevsky anymore. So I'll actually just put him down to usable but barely. I'll just take it out of meta Rally and Garrison. There's some problems with Justinian. Justinian is really good. I use him a lot. I use him a lot in Ark of Osiris. I use him a lot in when I was rallying when he first came out. But it's just the reality is that if your rally is swarmable, your rally sucks, and it is what it is. That's just basically my opinion. What makes Justinian rally probably not as meta as any of the other ones. And then with Subutai Attila coming into the game, that makes it a lot more harder, a lot difficult to swarm than Nevsky Justinian. I think Justinian can't be included in the meta rally Garrison, to be really honest with you. So, yep. My opinion. If you disagree, you guys can actually open up your own YouTube channel and then talk about it. But that's just my opinion. If you disagree, don't hate me. But yeah, that it is what it is. All right, so Belly Prime. I would put him usable but barely, even beyond Justinian. I don't think it's that good. Same with Takeda, just because we were talking about Attila. Takeda's probably worse, way worse than any of those guys. Actually, I'll put him in trash. Just because, no one's gonna use Takeda anymore. Lapu Lapu, he's usable, but barely. I don't think people are gonna build leadership set just to use Lapu Lapu for defending a city. So sorry. My wife just walked in from return from work, so I'm gonna talk a little bit quieter. But then again, let me just turn up the volume a little bit so that you guys can hear me a little better. Hopefully that's better. But okay, so yeah, Lapu Lapu, no one's gonna really build any leadership gear. He's not meta, so I can't put him anywhere around A or meta rally or Garrison. But even B, no one's really building Lapu Lapu. If you're gonna build Lapu Lapu, just use whatever Garrison that you're gonna use. So it's a waste of sculptures in my opinion. So yeah, that's where I'll put him. In terms of meta Garrison, Dido could be used as a meta Garrison with Hera, but I think no, not Hera, but Choryong. But CY is probably better pairing with Hera, so I'll put her at the B. Not better than Scipio Prime, but right after that. I think in terms of the Margaret, I think Margaret is a B, but Bybars is probably C. Actually, it's tough to actually put Justinian in C, so let's just put him in the very top place for B. Justinian's really good. Justinian's usable. If you're using Witch for cavalry, that's probably still the best. So, but I don't think he can be anywhere higher than B. So let's just go ahead and put him at B. Now we have Tariq Ibn Ziyad. I think he's part of the best rally with Scipio A. So I'll just put him at the meta rally in Garrison. Although I think he is, in terms of power level, I think he's better than Attila. So let's just put him there. Maybe Eleanor, but I don't know. I don't think. I think Scipio A is what makes Tariq ibn Ziyad rally work. So let's just put him there and let's move on. Now Sargon, I know not that many people use him, but I think he's still towards the bottom part of B, probably around where Margaret is in terms of engineering. I think he should be a little bit above Margaret just because of the fact that he's not engineering. But yeah, Yanziska. I did a math for it. Like, use Eleanor. Use Eleanor. Like, there's no way that you should be using Yanziska. Just because of the damage factor and everything just combined together, it's not really worth it. So use Eleanor. Use Eleanor Hera. Don't even try Yanziska Eleanor because it's gonna be worse than Eleanor Hera. So my opinion is that Yanziska is not even a B. He's actually probably better than all those commanders, but don't use Yanziska. Now, Henry is a good one. I think Henry is stronger than Tariq ibn Ziyad, just because these two pairing used to be number one rally commander in the game. Commander pairing in the game. In terms of even pure strength, though, I think he's also very good. So, yeah, I think that's. I think Henry is better than Eleanor, to be really honest with you. Just because of how strong Henry Ashurbanipal pairing is as a rally. I know that it got pushed out by Subutai Attila, but I think that's probably the better placement for that. Now, Boudica Prime, probably the last couple places of B. She's still pretty good. I think her debuff is really good, but not as good as other ones. I think the meta 2 marches for Archer is that Sugileng Herman and Shazar Ashurbanipal. So I think B is a good placement for him. And Flavius, I don't think anyone really uses Flavius nowadays. So I'll just put him at the very top place of trash. Bert is probably trash too, even worse than Takeda in my opinion. I don't even know. This guy's name is Osman or something, right? He's trash. Honda is probably better than Flavius in my opinion. He does have a good damage factor. It does have higher rage requirement though, so yeah, it is what it is. I don't even know what she does, so I think she's trash. Like, Gilgamesh is probably better part of trash. I don't think he's usable, really, but yeah. Pakao is actually really usable in my opinion for rally, for anti-swarming, but I think he's probably better than Justinian because he's actually still usable as an infantry rally. So I'll just put him right there. But if you have the field, you're never gonna use Pakal. So, and I think Scipio A, Tariq ibn Ziyad is still better. So I'll just put them there. CY is trash. And trash is very tough because a lot of those commanders like I've never seen in my 1,000 days of me playing Rise of Kingdoms because they're so trash. So it's hard. It's hard to actually rank trash. But I think CY is trash right now at this very moment. His damage factor is only like 1,700 or something like that. So, yep. Yeah, Vega is not usable. Now, XY. If you're building 3rd March, you probably don't want to use XY. But he's like probably the top of the trash. So, I think. What was this? Trajan can be better than Yanziska, but not really B. Actually, he's usable, I think, on the field. He's probably one of the last places for B, just because if you're running on leadership with Trajan and Philip, that's a massive buffer that you get right there. Let me just bump him up a little bit more because yeah, he's actually pretty good. I think he's still usable in the field. Nebu is probably around where Scipio Prime is. So I'll put him right there, right next to Scipio Prime. He's another AoE commander that you can use in place of like Isange and stuff. So Cyrus is trash. Zenobia, I think, is usable and good, but right now I don't think Zenobia is 100% usable. But I think she can be used for specific placements. So yeah, actually, then she has to be in C because she's usable but barely. So, but I think maybe the museum buff for her is coming out soon. So that's something that we can look out for. Montezuma is trash. Harold is probably the first place for trash, not usable. Yeah, I don't think you can use him. Chandragupta, this is interesting. So I heard that you can use Chandragupta with Subutai, but it's kind of working. It's kind of going to work the same way that Attila does. But yeah, I think Attila still is slightly better because he does like all damage buffs for 40% or something like that. So I've seen some reports that other YouTubers actually created that basically showed Chandragupta being better trader in terms of sevs and deaths. Technically, but those are without equipment, so I think he can be put right here, but I think if I see more results, I'll bump him up in the next video. How about that? YSS is actually usable, I think, but barely. But he's probably towards the last spot. If you're running mix only, I think is usable. Actually, is he usable though? That's a very tough call. But actually, if you're using leadership, right, Garrison, some people use him, so I'll put him at the very last spot for usable, but barely. William's actually pretty good, so I'm gonna put him right here around where I think he's better than Sargon. Dido, I think he's better than Dido in terms of like this is like considering her Garrison viability right now, but I think William is a pretty strong field right now. I can't put him in A because of the fact that I think Arthur Philip might be a better pairing than Arthur William, but yeah, I think William is a very usable commander right now. I forgot what this commander was called, but she's probably not usable at this moment. Artemis used to be pretty good, but she's probably around where XY is now. Ramses, the same deal, but probably a little down below. Leonidas, the same deal. Is he better than CY? I think he's better than CY. Now, Wu Zetian is actually probably the best Garrison before Season of Conquest, KVK 2. So I'm going to put him right behind Alex. Alex is probably the best commander for KVK 2 before, but Wu Zetian is probably right there. Now, Tamiris is great rally lead along with Edward Woodstock, but can't compare it to Wu Zetian in my opinion, because Wu Zetian is indeed the strongest Garrison commander in KVK 2. So Banana Head, same deal. Would I put Banana Head before? Yeah, I think so, because Banana Head, a lot of people actually use Banana Head with Yi Seong-ge, which maximizes the one hit that he does very, very infrequently. So yeah, that's not bad at all. Constantine is pretty good for, what's this called? Sunset Canyon, but he's not really that good. I would put him actually, yeah, I'll put him right there. That's probably the best spot. Now, Khan, yeah, I don't think Khan is stronger than Constantine. At least he has some uses in the at least he said he has some uses in the Sunset Canyon. But if you're rallying, actually, Khan is still the best rallying cavalry for KVK 2. So let's put him before Constantine and let's move on. But actually, on the field, Khan is pretty strong too. Now we have Saladin here. I think Saladin is a little better than Khan in terms of what they can do on the field. No, I think Khan is better, but in terms of investing in him, I don't suggest it. But in terms of power level, I think Khan is better than Saladin. So just put him in there. Charlemagne is a Lubatier. Do not invest in him. Let's just fill out the Lubatier. This guy Hannibal is also Lubatier. Don't use him. Don't even think about getting him. Is what I suggest for him. So, Yi Seong-ge. Wow, Yi Seong-ge. This is tough. You know, I will put Yi Seong-ge right here. I would usually put him at the very, very top of the list, but nowadays, Alex is used on the field in Season of Conquest as like the meta, one of the number one commander pairings that you can actually possibly use for infantry. So because of that fact, I'll put Alex before Yi Seong-ge. But he's up there. He's probably the best Season of Conquest, pre-Season of Conquest AoE damage dealer in the game. But it's just that right now Alex is probably slightly better than him because of his usages and his power level combined with combos. So, and also at the same time, he's probably, his power level alone is not really that much weaker than Yi Seong-ge too. Richard, I'll put Richard actually above Saladin in terms of power level. I know that Saladin counters Richard, but just that he's healing and AoE with like combined with like Yi Seong-ge and stuff is really strong. So I'll just actually put him there. Now Pierce is probably not as strong as Saladin, so I'll just put him right here. He's probably good for the KVK 1 before KVK 1 maybe, but he's not really as strong as any of the KVK 2 commanders is basically my assessment. Tutmos, the same deal, but I think Tutmos is better than Pierce just because if you use Tutmos Yi Seong-ge as KVK 1 parry, is going to slap like crazy. And then I think Charles Martel is better than Purus. He does normal damage buff, he does all damage buff, and then he combined with basically any Garrison combo or any field damage combo, I think is better than Purus, but not necessarily better than Richard or Saladin, to be really honest, or even Tutmos. Actually, I think Charles Martel might be better than Tutmos because you can use him with, let's say, things like Sun Tzu, and but if you're talking about maximum power level, I think Tutmos might be better because if you actually look at Tutmos' kit, his like second skill, third skill, fourth skill are all very overpowered for Gold Key Commander, and I think if you consider that, then Tutmos is slightly better than Charles Martel, although it's very tough for you to actually get him. Minamoto is very, very strong. I think he is a little bit weaker than Charles Martel though, but his damage factor is so high. But he doesn't really have all around tankiness, so I'll actually put him right behind Charles Martel. Ragnar regular behind the Constantine. Mulan's buff is pretty good, but it's not usable on the field on its own, in my opinion. Now, Mehmed, just looking at the pure power level, I think he's probably in between Charles Martel and Tutmos. Tutmos has an out of alliance territory 15% damage buff, which is really huge. And I think Mehmed is slightly weaker than Tutmos for Archer and Archer only. So I'll put them there. Ethelfled. Probably better than Constantine, but not so much to Purus. Ethelfled has 800 damage factor AoE, and that does not get reduced down to by the number of enemies that you can hit. So if you can actually fire off Ethelfled's AoE a lot more often, I think Ethelfled can be stronger than a lot of other Gold Key commanders. But anyways, Double C probably right behind Ethelfled. Again, Ethelfled is pretty strong AoE, so yeah, that's where I'll put him. El Cid probably. Actually, yeah, I wouldn't use El Cid over Mulan even. And I think Ragnar needs to come down here. Yeah, because Mulan actually has uses on the field, and it's just buff as well as like the rage buff that it gives is actually pretty useful. So I'll just put them in that order right there. Frederick, I actually value Frederick a lot more than what most people do, just because of the fact that he can do 2400 damage factor in KVK1 or pre-KVK, and I think he deserves a spot even higher than Ethelfled. I know that not many people are going to use him, but in terms of sheer power level, there isn't a single commander that has 2400 damage factor at KVK1. I believe Minamoto's was, let's see, 1400 plus 1200, that's 2600, but then again, that's 75% chest. So yeah, Minamoto in average does 2300 damage factor. Frederick does 2400, and Frederick is really, really strong. I think this is the last commander, which is going to be Julius Caesar. I think Caesar is better than a lot of those commanders. I think Caesar's buff, but I don't think it's better than Double C, because Double C's single target damage is actually very usable on the field for KVK1 and pre-KVK. So all right, that was a pretty long video, 44 minutes. Oh my god. I might fast forward this video a little bit so that you guys can actually, not hear me talk for that long. But I hope you guys find this guide useful. This is for most people who are just starting off the game and stuff and who are wondering, okay, what is the power level of each commander that we are actually thinking about getting? Don't hate me. I know that the last tier maker that I got out there received a lot of hate from a lot of different people. So if your troop type is not really the highest on this tier list, don't hate me because it's my opinion. But if you do, just at least leave it down in the comment down below and subscribe to me so that you can hate me even more. So, anyways, I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Probably. I don't know if I'm gonna do a live stream or something like that anytime soon. Let's see, but I'll be back with another video very, very soon. Probably sooner than you expected. But all right, well, I'll talk to you guys later, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.